Hello, everyone. My name is João. I'm Portuguese, and I would like to speak to you a little bit about um, financial astrology. In case you are an investor, or in case you intend to become even moderately an investor, I think this video can help you, or if you study a bit of astrology, to understand how can astrology and markets relate, and how can we understand some tendencies of the markets with astrology. So normally I speak in Portuguese. I don't know if the comments are, if people are listening in well in conditions, but I will proceed to say that in this new world of this new digital world, much more people want to become or are becoming investors in even with a small investment. There are many people with the digital world that want to become investors and are starting to see their own capital in a different way, in a very different way. Um, for instance, the crypto market is a good example of people that never invested in anything in their lives just start to do small investments. So the world is changing. Also, the traditional financial investments world is changing. It's much more easy now to buy stocks in a bank, in home banking, much easier than 20, 30 years ago, where you had to new newspapers or have inside information and sign many forms to be able to buy stocks. Today is much easier, and as in astrology, we associate this time with the sign of Aquarius, which is a sign very modern and related to technology, a very technological sign related to the digital world. So, point number one, every day more people start to invest and want to learn how to invest, uh, even if they start very slowly. Somewhere in their lives you will have to start, or we have to start, because the institutional world is becoming different and we cannot rely on our retirement and in our pensions for our future. So we have to prepare our future ahead, and we have to educate ourselves in terms of investments. Okay, I don't know if you agree, but even if you are very rich or not, everyone in the next 20 years will have to learn more about education and financial education. So why is astrology important in that field? Why can it be useful in that field? Because in the world of financial investments, many people don't know how to read the financial cycles. When I say many people, I say even professional investors, people that work professionally with finances and with investments. From what I've seen and what I've read and what I've followed up, many people that call themselves experts don't know how to read the social, political, economic, historical cycles. And many times they get wrong the trends because of that, because they don't understand the basics cycles of financial history and of financial cycles. And that is precisely where astrology can make a very big difference, a very big difference. And what astrology has to give to this world and to help regular people or investors is precisely how to understand what is the cycle that we are going through. What does that mean in terms of markets? What does that mean in terms of money, financial systems, trends of stocks, and etc. So I'll give you some examples. Please stay until the end for you to understand how this can work. How this can work. So financial astrology is a branch of a broader, more a greater branch of astrology called mundane astrology or collective astrology, and financial astrology is like a branch of mundane astrology, because you cannot understand financial cycles without understanding social cycles, without understanding political cycles, because everything is connected. Everything is connected. So, um, not many people study financial astrology. You can find some Americans, some British people, French people studying financial astrology, but it's not something that people normally study. It can be a bit complex, but normally people are more curious about their own lives and personal charts, which is called natal astrology. So there are not many researchers doing good research about mundane astrology, and even less about financial astrology. So this is a field that you won't find easy going on in the internet and searching in the internet and Google engine. You will not find it easily, because there are not many people studying it in depth and well. Okay. Thank you, Sharma. Sunny Sharma is asking for one thing not related to this topic. I'll probably give a comment later on. So, 2 points. First, many more people are becoming investors in the digital world because it's easier. Second, there are not good tools for interpreting financial cycles, and professional investors don't have it. Third, astrology is a colossal, phenomenal tool that can help, I'll give examples, to read with some precision the financial cycles and help you not to go into a cycle of speculative investments or crisis, and can help you make better decisions. Okay, I'll make examples. Well, to continue, examples. For instance, 2022, according at least my sources that I trust in my research, is a Mars year. 2022 is a Mars year. 2023 is a Sun year. 2020 was a Saturn year. 2021 was a Jupiter year. And normally, in Mars years, if you read history, you see a pattern. And that pattern is either financial crashes, or terrorist environment, or energy shortages, or shortages of supplies, or crisis in general. Normally, the year of Mars is a critical year. Normally, year of Mars is a critical year. I can show you a chart, a very simple chart, to exemplify. For instance, this is a chart for the S&P, which is the S&P 500, the combination of the strongest ever companies in the United States, of the stocks of these companies. And as you can see, the worst years were normally Mars years, like the negative record years like 2031, 2008, 2001, and 2022 were record-breaking negative years, while Venus years are the opposite. They are normally very good years in terms of stock market. What does that mean? If you enter stock markets before the beginning of a Mars year, the probability is much higher that you crash and that you lose your money. But if you enter just before the beginning of a Venus year, the probability is that you make good decisions and you make some money, more money than usually in the S&P 500 stock market that you normally can do. So there are more things to say about this chart, because there are other cycles that we use besides the 7-year cycle, which this chart exemplifies, as for instance, the ingress of the sun in the new year in Aries, the start of spring. We also analyze the start of spring, and combining the 7-year cycle with the spring chart, we have more reliable information about next year. And we have like a co-ruler of the year. And precisely in these 2 years, the two worst years ever, 2031 and 2008, they were both ruled and co-ruled by Mars in the sign of Cancer, which is the sign of the fall of the planet Mars. So it's just for you to understand how things can relate. The 7-year cycle is a good example, but we don't stick only with the 7-year cycle. We use other cycles like the spring, the equinox chart, the spring chart, the enter of the sun in Aries, and we read that chart to combine with the 7-year cycle. And in this precise 2 years, the worst years ever, 1931, 2008, there was the same pattern. It was a double Mars year with Mars in Cancer. For instance, 1933, 1954 were the best years ever, both years of Venus. And in this chart, the spring chart, Venus was in a house of joy and hope. So, just to give you a small example, please make some comments if you are reading or this in English. Please make some comments and put some questions because I'll probably answer them in the end. So, why are we living through a digital revolution or a new revolution? Or why will the digital world endure and things will become more online? Astrologically speaking, we are living other cycles, like, for instance, the Jupiter-Saturn cycle, a cycle of 20 years that can be gathered in patterns of 200 years, where these conjunctions take place in the same element of the four elements. And we are seeing a change of elements from the last 200 years. We are living through a new 200-year cycle, most intensely after 2020. So we are living in a complete new world with different rules, different economic rules, different social rules, and this will endure for the next 20 years, which means that Earth versus air, who wins? Air will win. What does it mean that element air will win? It means that things will become more virtual, more digital. Transports will become more air transports than earth transports, and we will do much more things online and digitally. Money will be for sure digital, and most business will run with networks, digital networks. So that's happening already, but that tendency will increase in the next 200 years to the point where 50 years from now, probably your car will be a plane or a flying car. And 100 years from now, it will be normal, or 150 years, it can be normal to do some tourism in space or in the moon. 200 years from now, it will be normal. There are other tendencies that are normal, that are normal with air conjunctions, and the negative side of those conjunctions in air, like happened in 800 years ago, is pandemics. Pandemics are more common in air cycles. The Black Plague also happened during air cycles, and so it's not all good. The new world, the new digital world, also has many challenges: the digital control challenges, the digital censorship challenges, the pandemic challenges, and many other. But in general, things will tend to become more virtual than concrete. So, bearing this in mind, I will want to give you some more examples of how can the astrological cycles work with financial markets. How can they mix? How can they relate? You can say that a commodity or a service or a product is ruled by one archetype or one planet. For instance, let us say food is ruled by Venus, or cakes are ruled by Venus, but energy is ruled by Mars. Communications, cars, computers are ruled by Mercury. Um, Hotels are ruled by Jupiter. banks are ruled by Saturn. So, according to the astrological language, we can relate the market with the corresponding planet ruler or sign ruler. Okay? For instance, let us see what happens with oil. With oil, you can see that, for instance, years where oil, the price of oil soared, were years where the planet that rules oil, which is Mars, was the, the ruler of the year. We saw it in 1973, we saw it in 2008, and we saw it in 2022. When Mars is ruler of the year, normally there are more wars, there are more terrorist crises, and the products ruled by Mars are more highlighted for the good way or for the bad way, for the good reasons or for bad reasons. But it's like the topic of the year. But most importantly, if you see these red dots here, the red dots of this chart, you see the exact moment where Saturn, which is the ruler of corporations, of big companies, left Scorpio, which is the sign of oil. Mars is the planet of oil, of energy in general, but Scorpio, which is a water sign, underwater sign, we can say that is the sign that more easily relates to oil in specific. So when Saturn left Scorpio for 2 times, that meant November 1985 and June 2014, the price of oil in the next weeks, next month, the following month of Saturn leaving the normal 2 to 3 years transit in Scorpio, the price dropped dramatically. I repeat, when Saturn, the planet that rules markets, corporations, it is normally about 2 to 3 years in a sign. When it left Scorpio, the sign of oil, the price of oil dropped 50%. That happened in 2014, and that happens in 1985. Also, the years where there was a peak in price, like the year 1980 or the late 1979, there was the most incredible conjunction of Mars, the planet of energy, with Jupiter. For 3 times, because of retrogradations, Mars made conjunctions to Jupiter, the planet of expansion, near the north node of the moon. That was a unique event in the whole 21st century. That major triple conjunction of Mars was related to the highest peak of oil price in the late history, 1979, 1980. Okay. I'm doing it in English, Joanna, because I'm speaking about a course in English in the end of this video. I'll give you another simple example. So, how does this work? When Saturn crosses a certain sign, the markets of that sign tend to develop more. For instance, when Saturn crosses the sign of Cancer, normally the price of houses tends to rise a lot. And the housing bubble that we've seen in the late 2008 was a consequence of the excess of demand when the Saturn crossed the sign of Cancer. So when Saturn crosses a sign, the markets ruled by that sign tend to rise or be more important. When Saturn leaves that sign, those markets tend to fade and the price tends to decline, like it happened to oil, but also I'm giving other example with cryptocurrencies, like what's happening. Sorry, the chart is not readable here. So sorry, I cannot show it. But that happened also with the crypto market. With the crypto market, when both Saturn and Jupiter were in Aquarius, and the crypto market, it's ruled also by Aquarius because it's a digital, brand new thing and computer based, the Bitcoin went to the all-time high. But when Jupiter left Aquarius, the moments where Jupiter left Aquarius and entered Pisces, the price of Bitcoin fell down 40%. That was in the middle of 2001. Then Jupiter re-entered Aquarius in September until late December. And when Jupiter re-entered Aquarius, we've seen the biggest increases ever in Bitcoin and crypto markets. When it left, the prices fell over, and it was dramatic. But this big cycle of Saturn in Aquarius was, in general, good for the activation of the crypto markets because they are very associated with Aquarius. But when Saturn leaves Aquarius, the attention will go elsewhere. And the next year, 2023, Saturn will leave Aquarius and will enter Pisces in March. Pluto will enter Aquarius. And so we are seeing a major change in the markets. We are seeing major changes in the markets. Thank you, Glaucia, for your comment. So next year will be a very important year for the world in general, because the influence, let us say, of Saturn, or the energy of Saturn, will be less present, and the energy of Jupiter will be more present. That is a very good news for the human rights realm and for the human rights fighters. It's not so good news for the financial markets because they are ruled by Saturn, and also because the co-ruler, the Sun, will be the main ruler of the next year, 2023. So it's a time for heroes to show up, for heroes and big events to show up. It's a year of hope, but a year of shock and a year of fights. Why it will be a year of fights? Because the co-ruler of the year 2023 will be the planet Mars, and will be doing a very intense angle with the Sun in spring. So we can say that 2023, for one hand, will be a huge change of energy. The game will change. The game of social media will change. The game of the markets will change. The political game will change because two major important planets will change sign, Pluto and Saturn, in about the same month. But it's very good in one sign, for instance, for the freedom of speech. But it's still a year of corruption and a year of war of information, and crisis in the financial markets as well. So this is only examples of how we can see the link between astrology and between the financial markets. And I will remember you again that this information you might think it as simple, but normally professional experts don't have and don't use this information. And what happens is normally their advices to people don't integrate useful cyclical informations that could be more helpful for the clients that take more risks because that information is not integrated in the evaluation of the markets. So if you want to know more about this, if you want to understand more about this, if you thought this was interesting, I'm not used to do videos in English, but this time, because I'm starting a course tomorrow, you can still register in the course of Financial Astrology. Just email us info@joaomedeiros.com to say, I'm interested in this course. Even if the course already started, you can buy it and watch it for the next year, because the contents are valid for the whole next year of 2023. So if you're watching this video in the middle of 2003, you can still buy this course and see what markets are ruled for what planets. You can see the tendencies for the next few years, broad tendencies according to this system, and also at the short run, because I didn't speak about lunations. Lunations are incredible. Lunations, it's not difficult to understand the months where stocks will increase or decrease based on the new moon cycles. It is not so difficult. And also there are other important cycles like Mercury retrograde cycles, and the cycles of the nodes of the moon combined with Saturn and Mars, they give explained information about the tendencies of the markets. That information you cannot find easily nowhere in the internet. I can assure you. There are not many people studying this. There are not many people researching this that know really, really well astrology. And so if you find this was useful in some way, you can just email info@joaomedeiros.com. I'm interested in this course. How can I register? And we'll talk with you and we'll speak with you. They consist in 4 lectures and 4 Q&A sessions. The 4 lectures, the first lecture, I will talk about what is the context, the ethical context of financial astrology, what are the stages of financial freedom, what is the 7-year cycle of stock markets, and what will be the tendency of next years based on this 7-year cycle. In the second lecture, in the second lesson or master class, I will talk about how markets relate to signs and planets, which signs rule which markets. I'll give you examples, and I will talk about the 30-year cycle of the stock markets related to the Saturn cycle. Saturn is the most important planet in financial astrology, I must assure you, and the cycles of Saturn rule the ups and downs in the long term and the short term of the stock markets. And then in the third lecture, I will talk about other cycles like the node cycle, the retrogradation cycles, like the Jupiter-Saturn cycles, like the spring equinox chart that also can combine. And also, I will talk about the seasonal monthly trend of stock markets. How can we read them with lunations, with the new moon and full moon? And also, I will speak a bit about the daily tendencies of the stock markets and record-breaking days in the history of S&P and record-breaking positive and negative days of S&P. What did they have in common in terms of astrological signature? Finally, in the fourth lecture or fourth masterclass, I will speak about the cryptocurrency market. I will analyze specifically the Bitcoin trends in the last years, and we'll do interpretation for the future based on the planet that rules Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and based in the past chart and the natal chart of Bitcoin, also other cryptocurrencies. And I also speak a little bit about other currencies or fiat currencies like the euro, dollar, or other markets or other companies. So this will not be financial advice. I must remember, this will not be financial advice. You are fully responsible for your decisions based on this information that you receive, but it's invaluable information that you will not find elsewhere in the internet, in the world, explained as it will be explained in this course. This I can guarantee you. You can see other people talking about similar stuff, but not organized, linking traditional classic astrology with modern astrology. So I will be welcome to come to our course. It will be great to have you in our course. There are many people interested from all over the world. That's why I'm making this video in English. In case you are interested, in case you found this okay, I want to know more, just email us. There was many things that I didn't explain, but they are crucial. For instance, the main crashes of the markets happen very near the conjunctions of Mars with the south node of the moon. And it will happen again in the near future. So if you want to know when, if you want to understand a little bit more of how this works, you don't have to be an investor. You don't have to know astrology. You have to know a little bit of English, but as you can see, my English is far from perfect. So it's simple. So you'll understand the basic of it. So if you are interested, just email us and we speak to you and we'll show you the full details of the course, even if it already started. Thank you so much.